I've had a few people recently ask me about starting a podcast. I wanted to share that we use Buzzsprout. I love them. I am not techie, and it has been a wonderful experience. Tutorials that you can tap into, so many videos. They send out a newsletter. It's just been a really great experience. The other thing I like about Buzzsprouts is they get your show listed in every major podcast platform. Audio players that you can drop into other websites, detailed analytics so you can see how people are listening. Podcasting really isn't that difficult if you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast, check out Buzzsprout. You can click the link in the show notes, and that lets them know that we sent you. You're going to get a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for the paid plan, and then that also helps support our show. Thanks in advance, and start your podcast soon. I'm Curious Cass, and this is Curiosity Junkie. Today's guest is a cancer survivor, Tedx speaker, Dolphin Trainer, and a documentary filmmaker. Yes, she's quite an amazing woman, and I am so excited to have her on the show. Please welcome Joy Soto. Hi, Joy. Thank you for coming on today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic. It's so good to have you on the show. I'm so excited to talk to you.
I know, me too. I've seen your recordings before and your podcasts and the YouTube videos, and I just love your energy. So I'm really excited to be talking to you.
Oh, thank you. What a compliment. That's wonderful. Well, let me tell everybody how we connected. On LinkedIn, I saw that you did a TEDx talk, and I watched it. Wow, what a fascinating journey you have to share. Joy Soto is a documentary filmmaker, cancer survivor, and TEDx speaker. So I feel very honored to have you on. I want to jump in and talk first about, as I was watching your documentary, I was thinking 25 on the 25th, your golden year. I had not heard that either, but I thought, wow, how cool is that? You're 25 on the 25th. You would think, all right, this is going to be an awesome year. Yeah. So let's just kind of go from there. What was that year like?
Well, it was different. It was not as awesome as I thought in one perspective, but in another way, I had a lot of incredible experiences with the people that I love. So 25 on the 25th was something that a friend from film school said when he heard it was my birthday. And he said, this is your magical year. And so I thought, I've never heard that before. This is great. And I had just started going to film school when I found a lump on my throat. And we all thought, well, what could it be? Could this be a spider bite or a reaction to something? And very quickly, I found out that it was cancer. And so I started going through chemotherapy. I had to drop out of film school. And when I did, one of the reasons why I had to drop out of film school was because they wouldn't let me go anymore.
Oh, really? Why?
Well, because I couldn't do all the work, because when you're going to film school, it's very intensive. So you're out doing film shoots and setting up equipment, and you're up late hours. And so I knew I couldn't do that, but I wanted to still go to class and learn from the professors, and the film school said no, that I couldn't do one and not the other.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, but what's good is when they said no, I just figured a way to get around it and a way for me to still learn. And that way was for me to make a documentary on myself. So I started filming myself. I had my friends from film school come to my first chemotherapy treatment, and they filmed me for that. So I have everything from the very beginning to the very end and beyond when I'm healthy and I have hair. So it's what I wanted to do was to show a story of survival. And that's thankfully what happened. I was able to show that story of survival because I have seen all of these people who have survived cancer. There's just millions upon millions of survivors out there. And what happens is they just go and blend back into society, and you don't really know their story and what's happened. But at that time, that was 2001, all of the movies that I saw, they all showed the person who had cancer dying. And I knew that that wasn't the truth. That happens to some people, but there's hope too. And that's what I hope to show people.
Yes. I love that piece of it, because you're right. We don't hear a whole bunch about survivors. You may hear something briefly about it, but there's not that ongoing positive message that you can survive cancer. So I love that you made the documentary in that aspect. So let's talk about how you find out. You're 25. You got your whole life ahead of you.
Yeah.
Not thinking about at 25, you're invincible.
Right. Well, I just been really tired. I remember feeling really tired for a while, and I started getting this cough, and then the cough was getting worse and not better. And it was on Thanksgiving when I walked into my uncle's house for Thanksgiving. We greeted each other. I coughed again, and then for the first time I went like this. And that's when I felt it, and there was a lump there. I remember just feeling the blood drain from my face. I walked right to the bathroom and just examined it, and it was like a lump where I don't know how I could have missed it. It was that big. It was like the size of an egg under my skin. Yeah, I don't know how I missed it. So then that's when my aunt at the time said, well, maybe it's a spider bite. And I didn't see it when he first walked in. And so we were figuring out what it was. And so my uncle took me to urgent care on Thanksgiving. And I'll never forget sitting there while the doctor just pushed on the lump again and again. And he kept asking me if it hurt. And I kept saying no. And I thought it was a good thing. I thought, oh, this doctor is impressed with me. I am a fine specimen. It does not hurt. But apparently that was not good. And I actually, as he walked away, I said, it's good if it doesn't hurt, right? And he said, no, it's not always good if it doesn't hurt. And that was the moment that I knew something was really bad. And I knew it was a cancer at that point. And so then the following week, I had a biopsy done, and I met with an oncologist, and it all moved very, very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. And if it is moving fast, you probably don't have time to really take it in and think about everything that is coming at you. You're just day to day moving through the next steps, I would imagine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So at what point, when did you decide you were going to make the documentary? Like as soon as you were diagnosed or into things a little bit?
No, I think I still wanted to go back to film school. And when the minute that closed off to me, and I had thought about it, had kind of gone through my head before, like, maybe I could do a documentary on myself, and it passes, that idea passed. And I remember my aunt saying, you should do a documentary on yourself, because I was up there with her when I was sick. And I said, yeah, I thought about it. But once again, it was pushed to the side. But the second that I was told, no, I can't continue to learn about filmmaking, I have to stop, that was when I was like, okay, well, what else can I do? That was a roadblock that I encountered in my life. And I wanted to figure out, okay, how do I go around this? And that was my way of still accomplishing my goal of becoming a filmmaker, but just doing it in a different way.
Yes, absolutely. So you enlist your friends and they were also in film school.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, I want to do this documentary. Were they 100% supportive? Did you get any pushback? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
They start going with you, and I love watching the documentary. It's just a beautiful, I think I even cried a couple of times in there. It's just a beautiful story, and it has so much hope in it. And I love when you share about shaving your head. That's when I was like,
yeah. And that was part of when I went to apply to Tedx. I think I had some other subject that I wanted to do, and the Tedx organizer watched my documentary, and then he was like, you have to talk about this. You have to talk about what it was like to be the subject and the director in your own documentary. So that's why I kind of went through that. And that moment of me shaving my head, what I wanted to show was strength, and that it was okay and it wasn't that bad, because it was, your hair is your identity, and it's,
yes, especially as a woman,
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's intimidating to go through that. And I remember at first before I did the head shaving scene, I thought, okay, I only want women in there. I don't want any men to be there. And then it ended up being just my brother and a male photographer or videographer who was there, my friend from film school. And I was just surrounded by guys. And at one point, I think I show that in the documentary, where I say, okay, somebody make me laugh. And I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a sigh. There's an audible sigh from the guy behind the camera, like,
because they're like, okay, what do we say? Yeah.
And then my brother doesn't say anything either for a little bit. And then he said, so do you want me to leave your sideburns? And I'm like,
Yes, that was it.
yes, yeah, of course I want you to get rid of my sideburns, get rid of them. And I start laughing. But that's one of those beautiful moments that you can have during the most challenging times of your life, or these like beautiful moments between you and your loved ones, or even strangers that are kind to you.
That was a touching moment. That you were trying to do the strength thing. I think it was the vulnerability that really came through in that moment that was so touching and powerful, like just amazing, the strength you had to be that vulnerable. Yeah, you did a great job with that. It was wonderful. Was your brother a big piece of support system for you as you were going through this?
He was there here and there because he lived somewhere else. So that was a time when he was there. I think that was right around Christmas when we were all together. So it was after Christmas when I shaved my head. So that was the time when he was there. But I had so many people. I had friends there. I was staying with my aunt. My mom would come and visit me. My uncle. I mean, just the love that I felt was just tremendous. I had worked at SeaWorld before. And I was a dolphin trainer over there. And so all these people who care for animals there, they're just the most amazing people and the most caring people. And so when they found out I was sick, they basically started organizing amongst themselves who's going to go up there. Okay, so do you have next weekend? Okay, I have next weekend. I can go the weekend after. I can't go because I have a cold, because I couldn't be around anyone who has a cold.
Right.
So these people were just amazing. And so I'd have people come up and stay with me in the hospital. And then I also had a friend from film school, this guy, Kevin, who was someone I barely knew. And this is kind of where in life you just think, okay, I know this person's going to be here and I expect them to be there if something happens. Well, that's not always the case.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Have you experienced that before?
Yes. Well, and you have to remember they have life and they have things going on.
Yeah. So I think there are some people where I thought, oh, maybe they'll be there. And then they end up not being there. But then Kevin was someone I barely knew. And he was there for me for every single treatment I went through. He ended up living at my aunt's house to help take care of me. I mean, he was just amazing. He was just an angel that, I was lucky enough to meet here on earth.
Wow. That is amazing. And like I said, it's just amazing how people kind of come into your life in that role, in that way, to be supportive, and you didn't even hardly know him.
Yeah, it is amazing. I just feel like that happens where if it's okay if someone's not there, because someone else will come in and pick up the pieces and help you in some way.
Yes. So now are you and Kevin still close?
Yeah, we're still friends. I saw him. Well, I think it's been a year now, but he goes between a couple different states, sometimes in California and sometimes somewhere else. But yeah, I still see him. I have a picture of him from us being together last year.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go to you're battling cancer. You're going through a lot of horrible treatments and the process. How long was that process?
So the name of the documentary is Just 1 Year, a story of triumph over cancer, but the actual treatment probably lasted for 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at what point did you get the all clear?
I feel like it's all these days are special days. So I found out I had cancer on Thanksgiving. On Valentine's Day is when I found out that I was cancer free.
Wow, that's a great day to find out.
I know. And then my birthday is what?
I was like, just like all the love. That's great.
I know, it was amazing. And then another date that was special is my birthday is September 25th. And so the day that they took my port out, when you have cancer, a lot of times they want you to have a port where it's like this thing that's under your skin and they can give you chemotherapy that way. And so I remember thinking, okay, when my port comes out, they think that I'm out of the woods. And so on my birthday is when my port comes out, which is actually in the documentary. So I'm like being wheeled down and they're going to take out my port. So I'm out of the woods at that time, and they were singing happy birthday to me on the gurney.
Oh, yeah, that was so great. It's just a beautiful documentary. You go through all this, you get you're okay, cancer-free. How long did it take you to then, because I'm assuming you had to do a lot of the editing and all of that on your own.
Right.
So you're going through that. How long did it take you to get your documentary ready? And then what were the steps for you? Because I think your message is not just cancer survivor, but you did independent documentary, and I'd love to talk about the steps for that because there's probably someone out there thinking about trying to do that. So how did you then take your documentary and get it where it needed to be? Because you won some awards, right?
Right. Yeah. I went to film festivals, and every film festival I went to, I won an award. So that was really nice. So how long did it take me? It took me a long time. If I tell you how much time it is, because I was done with my treatment in 2002, but the footage I had, like for all the entire film, I had footage that took place in 2007. So of me, because I eventually end up going back to SeaWorld, and I started a program where we brought kids who had cancer from Children's Hospital, Rady's Children's Hospital and Children's Hospital Los Angeles to the park, and they got to get in the water and meet a dolphin. And one of the really special parts of that was that I would actually introduce myself and tell them that I had cancer too. So I kind of wanted them to know, like, okay, I know that you're going through a lot right now, but there's another side to this, and then there's hope. But so I was filming them until 2007. The documentary got out in 2008. So, I mean, if you look at it like that, then it was about 5 years. But it was because I couldn't find an ending. It wasn't happy. I wasn't happy enough.
Right.
You know? But the steps for a documentary or anything you want to make, what I would do is make sure you don't get name music, because I did get some name music, and it was great. And I got rights in perpetuity from almost everyone except for one artist who keeps giving them to me, like in, I don't know, 2-year or 5-year stints. And that's been a big block for me. So if don't fall in love with music, just try and get something where you can have the music in perpetuity for the rights and worldwide. And just try to get a lot of footage with not just of you talking to the camera, but of, wide shots and medium shots of everyone, and get things because there were times where I just didn't want to record things, but you never know when you might use that. So I just say record as much as you can. And then for submitting to film festivals, just look at all the dates. There's resources on the internet where you can submit, and I got into several film festivals and was able to go around, which was really cool, and walk the little carpet and go with my mom, which was really special, to the film festivals. So it was a great experience.
Yes. And then you also did the TEDx.
Yes.
What was that experience like? I've heard that's quite the experience.
It is. It was a lot because I went there and I had one idea in the interview. Then I kind of switched around with the person who was interviewing me. He's like, well, what about this? I said, oh, yeah, that's great. I could do that. And honestly, I didn't think that I had the interview. I after 45 minutes, I said, okay, well, obviously it's a no. Thank you very much. I turned myself down. But like, to me, it was so clear that he was saying no to me, but he wasn't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's a lesson to not give up on yourself.
Just don't let your mind take over.
Don't let your mind take over, right. So, and then through that process, like, we had one subject I was going to go with, and then it changed once he saw the documentary. So I think just having it change those times was a little bit harder. And it was a difficult subject for me to talk about, but it was really neat because we got to meet with the other people who were speaking at TEDx, and we all, there's like a little X, they had a little red X there when we walked into the room, and we all, had our little notebooks and our TEDx bags, and talked about the process and how special it was for us to really be there, it was really incredible. And then you just work with someone, and they kind of go over your speech, and and try and make sure that you have the components you need for a TEDx speech.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that it was difficult, the subject was difficult for you to kind of talk about. Was it because it was still fresh?
It's not that it's fresh. I think that it's always going to strike a nerve to me, or for me, to a certain extent. I mean, I edited the entire documentary myself, so I was numb to it to a certain extent, but I think talking about certain aspects of it, and I feel like I see this from other people who've had cancer, when they talk about how much love that they experience from other people. And I don't think it's for everyone. I think sometimes people just kind of isolate themselves and they don't experience that. But when you open yourself up to people in your circle, you'd be surprised how much love you get, and it's overwhelming, and it's hard to talk about because I don't know why it's hard to talk about, but it is that love. So I think that was just hard for me to get out there and talk about how sick I was and how much people were there for me. And
I can just feel it when you're talking. I'm thinking it would just fill your heart up so much. It would be like, I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing today.
Okay, well, what I'm doing mainly at home is I'm homeschooling my 2 kids.
Oh, right, yeah.
But then on top of that, I'm doing speaking engagements through Zoom, and just doing inspirational speeches and talking to people about the things I've been through. And I also like to incorporate Zig Ziglar's information because he really influenced me throughout my sickness and throughout my life. So I like to talk about him and how he affected me.
Yes, Zig Ziglar. I have quite a few of his quotes and sayings because he's a great one to follow.
He is so great. And I got to meet him, by the way.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Yeah. Well, at one point I was going to put him in the doc. I wanted to put a quote of his in the documentary. And so I contacted his headquarters. This is a long time ago. And if you've listened to his recordings, you might recognize the name Lori Majors, who's his secretary or his assistant. And so she wrote me back. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Lori Majors. That she got back to me and they approved it. And then before I knew it, I was in phone conversations and they wanted me to fly out to Texas. So they actually flew me out. I was in Hawaii at the time, to Texas. And then they have, I think it's called the Monday morning devotionals. And so they brought me in for that. And I got to give a speech in front of Zig and the rest of the employees there in this room. And it was so special. It was so special. So it was just the most incredible experience I had. And as I left, they loaded me up with this bag full of Zig's inspirational things. I remember it was super heavy. I just walked out of there. And I flew out before or another time for his birthday. So Zig is a really big part of my life. And I'm so grateful I got to meet him and just be influenced by him.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. Good for you. Yeah. I got goosebumps when you were talking about it. I was like, oh, what an experience. That would be wonderful. Oh, okay. So how would somebody go about getting in touch with you? I just reached out on LinkedIn through the message, but I know you probably have other channels for people that work better for people to contact you.
Okay. Well, LinkedIn is great. And then also I have a website that's joyclausensoto.com, JoyClausen Soto, SOTO.com. And you can contact me in that way if you need to. Or like I said, LinkedIn is fantastic. I'm on LinkedIn all the time, so I can get back to you in a message right away.
Yes. Now, are you open to traveling once COVID? I know we're all kind of on restriction and a lot of this is interesting and Zoom is fantastic, but it in person would be so much more fun.
Yeah.
But are you open to that eventually as we get some?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It'd be fantastic to do that.
Are you just completely away from the film piece or?
Right now I'm just focusing on my kids. What happened was I ended up going back to SeaWorld at some point, and I was a dolphin trainer there until 2016 when I had 2 young kids who are now 5 and 7. So they're still young, but they're younger then.
Yes.
And it was just wonderful being back there. And, we take these different twists and turns in life, and that's where I landed. And it was great because I was able to impact other kids who were going through cancer and other illnesses. So I think that we are exactly where we're supposed to be. And that's where I was supposed to be at that time. Right now it's home with my kids and doing these speeches over Zoom.
Yes, no, it's a wonderful, wonderful place that you do get to spend time with your kids and also be able to share your story and the positive message of having cancer and that battle. And earlier when you were talking, and I did want to touch on this just briefly, you were talking about your documentary and how you wanted to make it a positive message. Mm-hmm. And you kind of stated that at the moment you were thinking about doing your documentary. And I think in the back of my head, there's probably a larger benefit to that positive. You wanted a positive outcome. And I wonder if that kind of helped throughout your cancer. You were looking for the positive outcome the whole time. You kind of counted on it. You had already this is where my film is going, so this is what's going to happen. I think the power of the mind is amazing. So I wonder, did you have an impact on how you battled that cancer with that positive outcome?
I think so. You know, it's funny you say that. There was a nurse I met at the very beginning of my treatment, and I remember sitting there and she was drawing blood from me. And she said, so what, I don't know, somehow she asked me, like, what are you here for? I don't remember how it came up. I said, oh, I have cancer and I'm going to go through chemotherapy soon. And I had a smile on my face. I'm just someone who has a smile on my face a lot. Even if I'm crying.
I see that in you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
And I remember her in the middle of drawing my blood, looking at me and saying, oh, don't worry, you're going to be just fine. She just knew. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? And she said, because I see people come through here all the time and they are defeated before they even start. But you're here, you found out you had cancer, and you have a smile on your face, so you'll be just fine. And so, I mean, that's from someone who works with people all the time, and she sees these outcomes. So I think, I mean, I had a wonderful doctor. I'm so grateful that I had such a great doctor. And I had, a great hospital, because I was treated at Children's Hospital as an adult in LA. And so the whole experience was really good. But I think the attitude is huge. And for me to take my mind off of it, I had the documentary.
Yes.
So yes, absolutely. But I think attitude is a huge part of making it through this whole.
Yeah, because it's heavy. That's a lot. And I would think it would be easy to just fall into the despair of it all. But
right.
You had already kind of made the decision that there was going to be a positive outcome. So
Yeah.
I love that. I totally forgot about the Dolphin Trainer, and I love that. And I love that you worked with kids that were struggling and surviving cancer. Because you had already been through it. And I think that's a wonderful piece. Now, is that a program that you still work in or around or support? Is there something set up?
They had me go in, I think it was in 2018, and then things have been crazy lately there. So 2019, I don't think it happened, but it's because the people who had organized it were not let go, and now it's 2020 and there's no way we're going to be doing it. So it still stands that I want to give back. I want to be able to help people. And so if I can help tell my story and give people hope in that way, and that not just with cancer, but with anything, that you can overcome it. And if someone tells you no, then you find another way around it and you accomplish your goals anyway.
Yes, I love that. That's a great message and a great place to end our conversation. Joy, just so you know, I will put in the description all of the ways to contact you. I will also run it through the video so that people will have access to ways to connect with you and continue to help share and spread your message of positivity, because I think it's so important.
Okay, great. Thank you. It was so nice meeting you.
Yes, you too. And for everybody out there, thank you for tuning in, listening, watching, and we'll see you soon. Stay safe and stay curious.